All right, third period. This is our last set of notes for G4, Human Adaptations to the Physical Environment. Let's just review the summary of this group of lessons. Human interaction with the environment began with the need for basic resources, but that has evolved to meet the needs of agriculture, trade, and industry. This led to humans inhabiting every continent and requiring greater access and consumption of resources, uneven distribution of wealth, diffusion of biodiversity, reduction of biodiversity, and the need for environmental protections. Our starter claim for G4, what we're going to try and support with our sources, but also challenge, is that human adaptation is usually related to food production and security. So remember that that starter claim is only partially correct, and so we will be revising it to present a more accurate claim or thesis. So G4C is all about environmental modifications and the diffusion of plants, animals, and pathogens. Pathogens are diseases. So this is how we change the environment, and part of that change includes the diffusion or spread of plants, animals, and diseases from where they originated to new places. So you see on this image, we have clearing a rainforest for a farm, and then here we also have a map of Africa and the different COVID-19 variant routes, so different ways that the changes in COVID-19, the routes that they took. So plants, animals, and diseases have been moved around the world by humans who are moving around the world. So plants, animals, and diseases come with humans when they go from one place to another. Sometimes this diffusion is accidental rather than on purpose. So an example of purposeful diffusion would be bringing potatoes from the Americas to Europe. So potatoes is a crop that originated in the Andean mountains of South America, and those were brought to Europe, and Ireland was the country most famous for depending most heavily on that crop, not just for farming, but also for consumption. And so this map here on the top is a map of different regions in the world and the crops that originated in those regions. Sometimes, however, that diffusion is accidental. So an accidental diffusion would be bringing a disease that wiped out the potato crops in Ireland. So there's a disease that attacked potatoes since they only grew one type of potato. That one type of potato became very susceptible to this disease. And so once this potato disease took hold in Ireland, it devastated the potato crop in Ireland. And since that's what most Irish were eating, that's why they had a famine. And so you see here that there was about 800,000 people who died of starvation or famine-related disease in Ireland. And all of that was accidental due to diffusion. The redistribution of species can have intended and unintended consequences. So for example, when a new plant is introduced to an area, when a plant is brought from the region that it originated from to a brand new area, it can have intended consequences. So for instance, it can create a new food source and provide income and trade. So this picture here on the right, this is from an orange grove in Florida. Citrus originated in Europe and was brought by the Spaniards to Florida. And the citrus growing industry is a major industry in Florida that is intended, and it definitely provides not just food, but also income to the state of Florida. Some unintended consequences for introducing a new plant into an area is that the new species has no natural enemies, like insects or diseases that would keep that plant species in check. And so it can take over an area easily and push out native species. So up here on the top, this is Kudzu. This was this is a plant that originated in Japan, and it has no natural enemies, and it's a vine, and it can take over, it can spread over other plants, and then prevent those plants from receiving the sunlight, and therefore killing those plants. Down here, this is the Brazilian pepper plant. This is a very common plant in Florida yards, and again, it has no natural enemies in Florida. It's an invasive species. The Colombian Exchange is a very famous exchange of plants, animals, and pathogens between Afro-Eurasia, that would be Africa and Europe, and Asia, to the Americas, and the Americas to Afro-Eurasia. So there were species that were exchanged. So corn, tomatoes, potatoes, tobacco, cocoa, which is chocolate, came from the Americas and went to Afro-Eurasia. And wheat, sugarcane, horses, cattle, pigs, and sheep went from Afro-Eurasia to the Americas. Diseases were also exchanged. For instance, smallpox, plague, and malaria, killing many American natives. So smallpox is one of the reasons, one of the consequences of the Spaniards coming to South and Central America, and that wiped out the natives that lived in that area. So G4D is now looking at when humans interact with the environment, they create intended consequences, so purposeful consequences, and then unintended consequences, or consequences that are accidental. So here we have the Hoover Dam. That is an intended consequence to control the flow of water. And then here is water pollution. That would be an unintended consequence of us interacting with the environment. So individuals and societies, we change the physical environments in which we live to better provide the things that we need to survive, such as food, shelter, and clean water. So for example, we can build dams to control flooding, like the Hoover Dam on the previous slide. We can make aqueducts to supply water to arid places. This is an example of an aqueduct in Europe. We can clear forests and grasslands to grow single crops, to raise livestock, and to extract resources. So this is in the Amazon rainforest, and rainforest has been cut down to raise cattle. Down below, this is an image in a country in Africa where they are interacting with the environment by mining for gold. And then here we also have interacting with the environment for shelter in ancient Mesopotamia, which you will be learning about very soon. These modifications can change the balance of nature and have consequences intended and unintended, positive and negative. So we can modify our air, water, and land with pollution. So I already showed you water pollution. So these top two images are air and land pollution. This image on the right is in the country of Pakistan. But also we modify that balance of nature by causing the extinction of species. So this image just shows a few of the animals that are currently on the endangered species list, endangered of going extinct. The consequences that humans make when we modify the environment, they can be local on a very small scale. So for instance, a loss of a bee colony, or they can be global and on a large scale, such as the rise in average temperatures due to carbon emissions. So this map right here is showing the predictions by between 2070 and 2100 as far as the average temperature increase around the globe. This right here being an example of honeybee decline, which is a big deal since most of our plants that we eat are pollinated by bees. Human-made changes to the Earth's environment have also significantly impacted plant and animal species and their ecosystems. So when we change the environment, we not only affect the plants and animal species, including extinction, but also their ecosystems. So an example of that would be deforestation in 2018. So the darker the green, the greater the deforestation. So we are impacting those plant animal ecosystems. And then this image on the right is from the Great Barrier Reef, showing coral bleaching due to different pollutions. And so again, we are changing the ecosystem. That is all of your notes for the second part of G4. I hope that this group of lessons is making perfect sense to you, and I will see you in class.